Today we're going to do a healing reading, or excuse me, the reading is going to be healing advice from spirit. And I have to tell you that these flowers really encourage the reading. So these are all wildflowers that I cut today. And when I was putting them together and finishing the arrangement, I was just noticing how happy, this is going to sound silly, but truly like how happy my inner child was with this arrangement. I think just it's very whimsical, it's very natural. It was all flowers I found like in the ditch on my walk, so on and so forth. And I was just noticing that just my inner child would really, or does really appreciate it. Me as a child would have just like loved this arrangement. So with that being said, a lot of times when I think of inner child, I think of healing. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to do a healing advice from spirit reading. Then I thought of this book, You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay. So we're going to do the book method of divination with this book. And from there, I noticed the rainbow on this book, and growing up I absolutely loved rainbows. Like I was sort of obsessed with rainbows. So then I was like, okay, how about I do these two oracle decks, the Chakra Wisdom Oracle and the Prism Oracle, both have a sort of like rainbow theme. The Chakra Wisdom Oracle is what am I trying to say, is arranged by colors or by chakras. And each chakra has a different color that it's associated with. And then the Prism Oracle is all based on color. And so that's just to give you a little context of how this reading came to be. Again, my intention is for us to get some healing advice for you from spirit. And this might be directly related to inner child healing, or it might just be general healing for you. I mean, to be fair, excuse me, to be fair, I think most healing advice relates to our inner child in some way, shape, or form. But I guess what I meant when I said it could be inner child advice or otherwise is this might be directly connected to emotional healing from you, healing from the past. Or it might be more like healing advice. It could be like physical healing advice. So take it how it resonates for you. So the cards that came out were the Rest card from the Prism Oracle and the Perfection card from the Chakra Wisdom Oracle deck. And we are going to read directly from the guidebooks for both of these cards. But let's begin by doing the book method of divination with this book, You Can Heal Your Life. So I open your arms. Sit at least once a day with your arms stretched out to the side and say, I am open and receptive to all the good and abundance in the universe. It gives me a feeling of expansion. The universe can only distribute to me what I have in my consciousness, and I can always create more in my consciousness. It is a cosmic bank. And I almost said blank because I thought she was going to say like blank canvas or blank slate. So it's a cosmic bank / blank canvas, blank slate. I make mental deposits by increasing my awareness of my own abilities to create. Meditation, treatments, and affirmations are mental deposits. Let's make a habit of making daily deposits. Just having more money is not enough. We want to enjoy the money. Do you allow yourself to have pleasure with money? If not, why not? A portion of everything you take in can go to pure pleasure. Did you have fun with your money last week? Why not? What old belief is stopping you? Let it go. Money does not have to be a serious subject in your life. Put it into perspective. Money is a means of exchange. That's all it is. What would you do and what would you have to do? What would you do and what would you have if you didn't need money? And that makes me think of a journaling prompt that has been really helpful in my life in terms of just getting to know myself. And that journaling prompt is, if I had all the time and money in the world, what would I do? Okay, so I'm noticing we open to the prosperity chapter here, which is probably why this section is focusing on money. So it could be that one of the things you are working to heal is your relationship with your money, your financial health. But if that doesn't resonate, couple things. One is Excuse me, I'm just getting over a cold. One is that we can look at how we relate with money in terms of, we can generalize it to other aspects of life. So how we relate to money usually shows up in other ways, like how we relate to other people, because how we exchange money, or money is exchange, right? And we don't just exchange money, we exchange time and attention, we exchange energy with others. And so if the money situation isn't resonating fully, it could be more information around that. But secondly, I think if again money isn't resonating here, you could insert other ideas instead of money. So like, for example, it says here, money does not have to be a serious subject in your life. So if what feels serious to you is your physical health, if that's what's in need of healing, you could insert your physical health does not have to be a serious subject in your life. Because the reality is, the things that are in need of healing in our life typically feel really serious to us, right? And as I say that, I certainly do not mean to undermine any discomfort or difficulty you're going through. I'm not in the business of bypassing things. I think it's important for us to move towards our problems and difficulties so we can get information from them, to feel our feelings, to get information from our emotions, so on and so forth. And I also think we have a sort of addiction in our culture to make everything so serious. Do you know what I mean? And as I say that, like, I'm looking at the perfection card here, right? And that might be a huge message from Spirit, or put in the context of this reading, healing advice from Spirit is, what if it's not all so serious? Do you know what I mean? And as I'm saying that, I'm thinking of another book. Gosh, I'm blanking on the name, but it's by Byron Katie. I am blanking on the name. But you know what I'll do? I'll link it up, or I'll put the title in the description box. It's a book I read in my early 20s that really changed my perceptions on a lot. And it might be like Loving What Is or something like that. I'll look it up. I'll put it in the description box if you're interested. But it's making the, blank, whatever you're struggling with, does not have to be a serious subject in your life. And this perfection card is making me think of it, because I remember the biggest thing that stood out to me in that book at that time in my life is she was like describing someone who was like going through something pretty difficult, if I remember right. And then she said something that surprised me. And she said they were taking life really seriously. And I just like had never heard that perspective on something that you're struggling with. Like, I always thought if you were struggling with something, like, you had to take it seriously. Does that make sense? And basically, I'm a recovering perfectionist. And so basically I was taking everything really seriously in my life. I don't know if you can resonate with that. And so again, I say all this not to undermine the difficulty, but I do think when we can sometimes bring a little lightheartedness to our life and even the things we're struggling with, and have a willingness to see life and the things we're struggling with through a different lens, which in this case could be, what if this isn't as serious as I think? You know what I mean? What if the situation or the subject isn't as serious as I think? Because the reality is, if you think about it, it's likely up until this point you have taken the subject or the situation very seriously. And if it hasn't resolved, and if it hasn't moved towards better, then maybe taking it seriously isn't the route of healing. Do you know what I mean? But what we tend to do is, like, when taking it seriously doesn't work, we tend to take it more seriously. we just like double down on seriousness. And so there's definitely a call here, I think, to maybe, in whatever way makes sense for you, to lighten up a little bit on yourself and in terms of your relationship with the difficulty or the subject. Okay, so I'm going to finish this section, and I'm going to kind of read some of the stuff I've already read before. So we'll start at the top here. Money does not have to be a serious subject in your life. Or once again, whatever, you can insert whatever topic makes sense for you. Put it into perspective. Money is a means of exchange. That's all it is. What would you do and what would you have if you didn't need money? Jerry Giles, who has written Money Love, one of the best books I know on money, suggests that we create poverty penalty for ourselves. Every time we think or say a negative about our money situation, we find ourselves a certain amount and put it in a container. At the end of the week, we have to spend the money on pleasure. That's an interesting practice. We need to shake up our money concepts. I have found it easier to teach seminars on sexuality than it is to teach one on money. People get very angry when their money beliefs are being challenged. Even people who come to the seminar wanting desperately to create more money in their lives will go crazy when I try to change their limiting beliefs. I am willing to change. I am willing to release old negative beliefs. Sometimes we have to work with these two affirmations a lot in order to open the space to begin creating prosperity. We want to release the fixed income mentality. Do not limit the universe by insisting that you have only a certain salary or income. The salary or income is a channel. It is not your source. Your supply comes from one source, the universe itself. There is an infinite number of channels. We must open ourselves to them. We must accept in consciousness that supply can come from anywhere and everywhere. Then, when we walk down the street and find a penny or a dime, we say thank you to the source. It may be small, but new channels are beginning to open. I am open and receptive to new avenues of income. I now receive my good from expected and unexpected sources. I am an unlimited being, accepting from an unlimited source in an unlimited way. Wow, that's beautiful. And I think this paragraph really stood out to me. I'm willing to change. I am willing to release old negative beliefs. Sometimes we have to work with these two affirmations a lot in order to open the space to begin creating prosperity or healing, we could say. And so I think, again, even if you're not coming to this reading for healing in regards to your financial health, I think I'm willing to change. I'm willing to release old negative beliefs those are two powerful affirmations. And isn't it interesting that she brings up that even when people come to a seminar wanting to break free in terms of prosperity, and she challenged their beliefs that might be blocking prosperity, there was still defense there. And so I think willingness, I am willing to change. I am willing to release old negative beliefs. Willingness is key in my mind to any sort of healing, regardless of what topic we're talking about, because it's been my experience that typically what happens is we prevent the healing consciously or unconsciously when we cling to the old and we defend the old. You know what I mean? Because it makes sense. Like these old beliefs at one point in our life kept us safe, right? And typically something that kept us safe at one point in our life is the exact thing that needs to be transcended or let go of in order to break free at a different point in our life, right? But that's a difficult transition, right? And so it makes sense that we defend old beliefs even if they are hurting us or limiting us. So I think the antidote, what's the word? I was like thinking soothing. It's like the salve. Is that a word? Salve? You know what I mean? Like that feels like a weird word. I might be saying it wrong, but you know what I mean? Like what you put like on a wound, right? Like just like a healing solvent. I think that's willingness. And it makes sense that we have to practice willingness, maybe more than just once. Like she says here, sometimes we have to work on these two affirmations a lot in order to open the space to begin creating prosperity or healing. And so willingness is coming through strongly. And I think using those affirmations, I'm willing to change, I'm willing to release old negative beliefs, I think could be huge. Now, this just keeps opening here. I mean, to be fair, there's a big crease. But I'm just going to read this before we finish up with this book because it feels like it wants to be read. We opened here to chapter 8, which is, I think, a beautiful sign. 8 is a number of abundance and power. And the chapter is called Building the New. And it starts off by saying, the answers within me come to my awareness with ease. How beautiful. So I'm just going to read this here. In the infinity of life where I am, all is perfect, whole, and complete. Change is the natural law of my life. I welcome change. I am willing to change. Wow, look at that show up again. I choose to change my thinking. I choose to change the words I use. I move from from the old to the new with ease and with joy. It is easier for me to forgive than I thought. Forgiving makes me feel free and light. It is with joy that I learn to love myself more and more. The more resentment I release, the more love I have to express. Changing my thoughts makes me feel good. I am learning to choose to make today a pleasure to experience. All is well in my world. Wow, that's beautiful. All right, so let's look up these two cards in their guidebook. I think I want to start with the Chakra card. So that's the red perfection card. And we're going to read right from the guidebook. If you haven't encountered this deck before, it's very whimsical, which is part of the reason I wanted to use it with these kind of like whimsical flowers. But with that being said, it's like nuanced. So I always encourage people to really listen to all the different nuances that, it comes at the message of the card in many different ways. And so really notice what sticks with you and what resonates with you, because there's a lot of messages in each card. So now we're going to start with just learning about the red cards in general. So the red is let your intuition be your guide. The overall impression is grounding. Keywords: vitality, sexual, passionate, energized, forceful. Manifesting intention. The first chakra relates to the source of your energy and how you are building your foundation. Think of the root chakra as a platform. The red cards represent and support you. The red cards represent the support you have created or are creating for your future. The root chakra the root chakra cards show us a new way to bring our dreams to fruition. They denote beginnings and reveal how to create a solid foundation in tangible form. Keep this in mind. If you are not yet creating what you say you desire, you may need to grow your energetic root deeper and wider into the earth plane. An abundance of red cards in a reading is a strong indication of how you are building your foundation and will offer energetic ideas about what is necessary for you to manifest. These cards represent the beginning of an undertaking and may guide you away from the old ideas that no longer work in your life. Well, isn't that interesting? I mean, we were literally just talking about that from this book, right? So that seems to be a really big theme, this idea of a willingness to release old ideas and beliefs that are no longer serving you. And here's the good news. You don't even necessarily have to identify those beliefs or know what they are. The willingness alone is going to help mold your consciousness into a direction that will allow healing. But that seems to be clearly, what are the odds of that? That's just wild, right? And then also like the new beginnings, we literally opened to that chapter just right now in the You Can Heal Your Life book. So there's a lot of synchronicities here, and that seems to be a strong one. Again, in this deck, it says, these cards represent the beginning of an undertaking and may guide you away from old ideas that no longer work in your life. Red cards ask, how does this card represent the place from which I can create something extraordinary? How exciting. Okay, so here's what it says about the perfection card. Righteous raspberry. I have the same high standards for myself as I have for others. The legend. Raspberry needs no makeup to accentuate her exquisite features, but she wears it anyway. She's a perfectionist. She speaks truth at all times, believing that she's helping others by sharing her truth. While statements such as your child is overweight are honest, they may make others avoid her. Lonely, she seeks the advice of her favorite elderberry. I always think that's so cute. Raspberry and elderberry. Who teaches her that honesty without kindness is cruelty. Her new vulnerability allows her to see the beauty in others as well as herself. Inspiration. Are you being too hard on yourself and consequently on others? Begin to look at what's right and good in your world and you will see it. Begin to look for what's right and good in your world and you will see it. Personal inquiry. Where am I presently focusing? Knowing, quote unquote, what's right and telling others about it might not be the best way of being. Alienating others, feeling alienated, seeking perfection, deeply desiring love, transformation ahead. Keywords: uniqueness, friendship, acceptance. Meditation. Think about the people in your life. Find something good about every person who comes to mind, no matter who they are or how you feel about them. Before you release them, oh, excuse me. So find something good about them before you release them. You will know this meditation has concluded when no more people come forward. And then finally, there's a little summary here. And for perfection, it goes like this. This card indicates protection and an inner conflict between wanting to look good and having compassion for others. Remain kind and unattached to an outcome. Being right and letting others know that you are right may not support the understanding you desire. Well, okay, so that's really interesting for a couple of reasons. The first one that's coming to me is this idea of having to be right, is kind of showing up in everything we've, divinated, so to speak, in this reading. So we talked about it in the book Method of Divination when Louise talked about how even at a prosperity workshop, people defended their old beliefs. So essentially they were like, I'm right, right? And so there's definitely some sort of call to willingness to see things different, a willingness to change, that is key to whatever you are wanting to heal. Secondly, the second strong thing that's coming to me from the perfection card is actually boundaries. And I think it came to me when we were reading from the You Can Heal Your Life, when she said something about forgiveness. Like forgiveness can be easier than I think. And what came to me when I read that was, there's a quote, and I believe it's from Matt Kahn, and it goes something like, the highest form of forgiveness is living well, or something along those lines. So essentially, like, it becomes easier and easier to let go of resentments the more we build the life we want to build, right? So that makes sense. And I think there's something beautiful in with boundaries in that. And I feel like it plays off this perfection card, because essentially the perfection card is like, you don't have to be telling everybody what to do or right. So with boundaries, you don't set them to try to change somebody else. And you don't set them to try to prove you're right. You set them just to take care of yourself. Do you know what I mean? So can you feel the difference in that? And so I think there's definitely something here about doing what you need. And I mean, I'm sure it's going to show up here on the rest card as well, but doing what you need to care for yourself so that you don't resent others. And then you don't have to also be like exerting all this energy of like telling people other things that maybe they don't want to hear, and then having to like do all that, right? You just do what you need to do for yourself. Clear boundaries without, because I mean, even look at this, like it's like a lack of boundaries or something. Cause like, I've never seen it this way before, but do you see how like, it almost seems like she has this bubble around her, but then her telling the universe and others what is right and what is truth is like breaking that bubble. So then the boundary can be broken. And so I think like that's what can close it up is again, there's a willingness to see things differently, a willingness to change. That's huge here. A willingness to, even if you don't know what old beliefs are hurting you, to not defend the old, but instead being like, okay, I'm willing to change, to see things differently. But then again, this idea that when we are clear about just what we need to feel good and take care of ourselves, then we like close those energetic leaks. Like this feels like an energetic leak, right? That she's like creating with this idea of telling the universe, telling others, telling, where it can be closed by just like listening to herself, listening to her body, listening to Mother God, listening to life, and not having to tell. I mean, so that's just like an interesting, I just had never interpreted the card that way, but I really like that for this reading. And it's just like a good reminder for everyone. So as I say all this, sometimes like hearing stuff like this is not the easiest to hear. And I say that from my own experience because I used to be very much a teller, very convinced. I was pretty self-actualized and very much a perfectionist. And I've had some like very humbling experiences and seasons in my life that have helped me see the beauty in willingness and in letting go of this idea that I have to tell to be safe. And so as I say all that, although sometimes is not easy to hear, I also think it's not any sort of scolding, but simply an invitation to see things a little differently so that you can actually feel safer in whatever situation you're in, so that you can actually move towards healing. Do you know what I mean? Because the sort of irony is, as we like are trying to tell the universe that we're doing it right, or others, you know, in unconscious or conscious ways, this actually doesn't help us feel any safer, right? And so I think this is like a beautiful invitation from spirit of of a letting go of that idea that that's what's going to keep you safe, but instead looking at the idea that willingness could actually keep you safe, which is sort of hard to wrap our mind around in our current culture, right? Because basically we are told like things have to look good in your life and you have to know what you're doing in order to be safe. But I don't know if you've noticed, but nobody really actually knows what they're doing, and we all just seem to be sharing about. And so there must be something different behind this idea of safety. And I think I'm coming to terms with more and more that, like, what if it actually has to do with this willingness to listen instead of tell? And in that, we have to be mindful and discerning of who and what we're listening to. You know, so it's not just like listen to everybody's piece of advice, but I think it's like listening to Mother God, listening to what your body is trying to tell you, listening to what your emotions are trying to tell you, listening to your heart and yourself, listening to the whispers of Mother Nature. Those things we can always count on. And when we're willing to listen to that, we do inevitably change for the better. So let's read a little bit about this rest card to finish up. I mean, I think without even reading about it, it's a pretty clear message, right? To rest. I think too, you know, like rest is very different than the perfectionistic attitude, right? When I was in perfectionistic mode and find myself in perfectionistic mode now, there's not a lot of rest going on. There's a lot of doing and hard work and striving. And so I think rest is such a beautiful complement to this entire message. And I mean, as I'm speaking to, one thing I can't help but notice on this perfection card is she's speaking, look at how she's looking backwards. So there's not forward facing energy in this sort of perfectionistic telling energy. And so I just think that's noteworthy as we are talking about healing, because true healing is always like a gentle moving forward, right? A beautiful unfolding. And well, to be fair, it doesn't always look beautiful, but hopefully you understand what I mean. There's progress being made. And in this energy, it's a looking back. It's energy going back. And so I think that's definitely a message. So let's read about the rest card. It's a green card, as you can see. And so I'm going to read about the green cards first. Okay. So it says green is the color of relaxation, bounty, and even love. Excuse me. As the color correlated with the heart energy center, it can represent love and also flip side of that, jealousy. In color magic, green is often used as a supportive color for enhancing feelings of calm and restoration. It is also literally easy on the eyes, as it's the easiest color for us to see in the visible spectrum. Green is also tied to nature and growth. After all, what makes plants green, chlorophyll, is also what allows them to convert energy from the sun into new life. Wow, I love that. Into new life. There's that new beginnings coming up again. Green cards in a reading. Drawing mostly green cards from this deck signifies an opportunity for renewal. Oh, isn't that beautiful? In a healing reading. Whether through gratitude for abundance, movement on a new project, or rest, let this time be easy and relaxed. Just let things unfold and grow as they need to. I love that so much. Okay, the rest card says, rest is essential for all beings. This card symbolizes the need for a little extra downtime to recharge. By giving yourself and your body the rest you need, you'll conserve the energy to achieve your goals with clarity and purpose. Wow, I love that so much. So thank you so much for joining me and letting me read for you. I think there's a big call here to be easier on yourself. To set boundaries so that you can rest and be easier on yourself, and to Gently sprinkle your life with more whimsy and willingness. I wasn't expecting that to come out, but I kind of like those together, with more whimsy and willingness. And in that energy, that gentle, whimsical, willing energy, natural unfolding of healing can occur.